Alright, I thought it might be helpful for everybody to watch me play just a couple solitaire quick games, and that I can point out some of like kind of the decision making process that goes into playing the deck. It's maybe a little bit harder to point out when we're playing a game. Um, I'm just going to go through these pretty quick, and I'll kind of stop at some places that are some decisions that I've seen people make in other recordings that aren't what I would consider probably the best play. Or hopefully we'll run into some situations where you kind of have to do a little bit of thinking. And I can show some ways to like kind of maximize what we do. For this hand right here, it's really not that bad. I mean, I have 4 mana sources here. I have these 2. They're enough to make my Mox Opal work. I only have 1 of my Tron lands, but I have 2 of them. And I have a waste, so if I need some colored mana, I at least have it. So I would probably keep this. And drawing that bauble was actually pretty good because now I can activate a opal on second turn. And when you're sending these out, I usually put the prism out first because if I have both of these in my hand, because I can't even get the second card out of the wellspring until I get the ironworks out anyways, so sometimes it's more useful to have the color fixing. I mean, you're not going to run into it a ton, but it's not bad. So that was turn 2. I have 3 sources of mana, or 3 sources of mana, I guess, yeah, on the playing field. So we're going to be going into turn 3, and I can get out a KCI if I need to. That Terrarian actually helps a lot. You wouldn't think that it really does, but it's going to give me an extra source of mana, because on this list I'm not playing Ethereum Sculptor, so I have no way to reduce the mana of stuff that I have. So I can sack this, draw a card, and get 2 mana. So we'll put our Ironworks out, and I'll see if I can go off here. And like when you're running into this switch situation right here, I know that I need 2 colored sources of mana, and I really don't have. I mean, I don't have any floating mana right now to tap my prism. I've already tapped my opal, so it doesn't do much for me. So I might as well just go ahead and get rid of it, and then it gives me two mana to use here. I can gain an extra, so I'll be floating 3 here with the Terrarian. I'll draw a card, and then I'm going to tap a prism and get rid of it. So now I have 5 mana out here. Before I start getting rid of anything else, I mean, I'm probably going to eventually tap this sphere for another white, so that I'll be floating 2 here. But I want to go ahead and draw 2 cards from the Wellspring, just because you really want to be able to see what you're working with before you start making any major decisions. So I'm floating 4 mana. I'll put all 3 of these out here. I've kind of learned it the hard way in a couple other games. If you expect any kind of, I mean, in game 1, obviously, I probably wouldn't be. Any kind of, like, graveyard exile, like a Memoricide, or, I don't know why I'm forgetting the other one. But anyways, one of the things that targets the graveyard, and you can exile things from the um, library. I've lost all of my face rewards and opened the vaults that way. So if I'm expecting that, I'll leave one of these out here and not crack it, just so that I can use it in response. I'm obviously not worried about that right now. I'm already floating 1 white mana. I'm going to use my sphere to get it, because both of these stars, when I use them for mana, they're going to draw me a card, so there's no reason to sack them. Anytime you can here, use your prism. Get some more colored mana. It's never a bad idea. I have enough mana here. I would just use this spell bomb to draw a card. So I drew into a face reward. Um, like in this instance, this is kind of a place where I could either just start drawing more cards, or I could sack them for the extra mana. I probably really don't need the extra cards because you see I already have that many eggs in my graveyard, so it's not that big of a deal to me. But I'm floating plenty of mana right here. It's something you may think about when your opponent, if you're expecting any kind of disruption on here. I might float enough mana here too, so I'd do something like so. I'm showing 11 total mana here with 2 whites, so I'm presenting as if like that I could have 2 sunrises in my hand. And so if I use this Faith's Reward, I mean, because right now they have no idea what's in my hand, I mean, I would still be floating enough mana here that I could potentially cast another sunrise if I actually had it. And so, I mean, once you're at this point right here, I'm just going to sacrifice everything that can draw me a card right away, and that doesn't do me any good. There's my Emrakul right there. So, I mean, this game would be pretty much over. That was turn 3. So, turn 3, and I had a storm count of 17, which could have gone much higher if I really wanted it to. I mean, I could put all of these eggs in here, and of course draw more cards if I needed to. But, I mean, I have plenty of mana out here to cast my Emrakul and everything, so let's play another game real quick and we'll see what happens. This is a hand that I would keep. The face reward isn't bad to have, but I would really keep it because I have 2 of my lands and an expeditions map. I only play 2 of the maps, but when I do get a chance like this to assemble Tron, it's usually something that you want to do. So we'll stick it out. So I have a tower in mine. I need a power plant. So having turn 3 Tron actually does a lot for you. It doesn't look like we're set up to really do anything right now, but we are in a pretty decent spot. I'm going to sacrifice the Terrarian just to draw a card and see what happens. This is kind of one of those decision spots that you run into. I could have 2 options here. I could either tap this for blue, and I could grab something with Fabricate and try to get more cards, or I could just tap it for white and do what I can with what I have. I could potentially not get very much stuff out of it, but I have the face reward right here. It's probably going to end up being fine, so I'm probably just going to go with the face reward. It's 4 mana. I tapped that for mana. This is when you can kind of start sweating a little bit, because you don't know really what's going to happen. It looks like we're going to be just fine. don't forget to, whenever you run into these opals like this, don't forget to just use them, because if you start just sacking a whole bunch of things, you won't pay attention and you'll end up with not enough artifacts out there to actually use them. I'm probably going to use this fabricate. I'm going to grab a wellspring. See, I almost broke one of my cardinal rules right there, as in tapping your prisms. See, and here's where things will kind of get dicey. I've drawn a bunch of, like, non-useful things. Like, I have all these lands, and I've drawn 2 ironworks. So, I have 2 card draws, potentially, to do anything with. You'll get in these situations sometimes. I mean, I've gone through 15 cards of the deck. I've gotten 1 face rewards, so somewhere in those next 35 cards, I have 4 open the vaults. I'm probably just gonna, I mean, since I've already gone this far, I would probably just gamble it. I don't necessarily like it. See, but there's a vault, so I have enough mana to draw a card here. Once you can get that many things out, see, like, this would be killer on a lot of things, on a lot of games. See how many lands I've drawn. I mean, but I have plenty out here right now that, I mean, we should be able to win just fine. And there's Emrakul right there, so. So, I would cast that. It'd be another turn 3 win. Let's see if we can do it for a 3rd game in a row. This is usually not what you want to see right here, is an Emrakul in your opening hand. And then the Retriever isn't exactly great here either, because I have nothing to go with, plus two lands that are both the same. I'm gonna mulligan this hand. This is always the risk that you run. I have no lands. So, that was turn 2. Let's see what we can do with this. We're going to try to draw some cards. There's a power plant. Stick a star out. Let's grab our last land. This is turn 4. I can actually do... Let's see if we can salvage this. That was a mulligan. How many cards did I mulligan at? I'm not mulligan to 4 cards, and here still on turn 4. We're set up potentially for a win. So this is where it takes a little bit of planning on what you want to go with. Probably just gonna stick to this. I might as well just draw my cards. This is an instance where having multiple opals isn't a terrible thing. So I'm going to stick these out here. See, from those 2 opals, I'm now floating 9 mana. Retriever is actually really good here. I'm going to use it to get a Wellspring back out, and it'll give me 2 more cards to draw. And if you're playing the Ethereum Sculptor deck, the deck with the Ethereum Sculptors, I would have an infinite loop right here, because you could use the 2 Retrievers together and had to have infinite mana. But like in this instance right here, I'm more interested in drawing cards than I am anything else. So, reuse the Wellspring again. And there we drew another. So, that is the one bad thing. You have to choose your opal to keep. The other one went back to the graveyard. So, I mean, this situation right here would be a pretty easy win. Might as well get rid of the things that I don't need. Just to make things easy here, I'll usually just keep... This is the best thing in the deck, I think, is these Retrievers and then the Wellsprings. It allows so many cards. Got plenty of mana. I didn't mean to do that, but it's not that big of a deal right now. And there's Emrakul anyways. So, that'd be a turn 4 win on a mulligan to 4. So that's probably a good thing for me to show you guys, is don't be scared to mulligan the deck. One of the most important things to have at the very beginning is some lands. I mean, you need lands to get going. You can always crack eggs to draw that 3rd or 4th land that you need, but I would never keep a hand that didn't have at least 2 lands, or a land and a Mox Opal and enough eggs to get it going. Because otherwise you're just going to be sitting dead in the water. You need mana to be able to use your eggs, and to get going. Because, I mean, getting this Ironworks out is by far the most important thing to the deck. The eggs are going to come to you, and so's your win cons. But getting going, and this is probably a good example kind of down here. I've seen some people talking about running more and more lands. I mean, you see how many lands I have down here, and especially in that last game where I got flooded with lands in my draws, and I was like a draw or 2 away from fizzling out. I mean, if you up your land counts, that's going to be the things that you're going to run into more and more often. Yeah, you may be able to get a KCI out earlier, but I mean, you're going to increase your fizzle rate a lot, so it's just something to think about.